I don't know when it happened, but I'm like, we're more spiritually aligned where the Lord will speak something to me and also speak the same thing to you, or
Hmm.
it doesn't seem so hard as hard work. And I can only think of, it says, like, can two walk together unless they agree in Amos 3 and 3? And I think of the oxen and how there was this yoke that they would put on their necks, right? It was a wooden beam and it would yoke them together so that they could plow or carry a cart. Now, and if it was two of them and they both equally strong, right? They go in the same direction, plowing the same direction, then there was a steadiness in terms of the progress that they were making and in terms of the load they were able to carry.
Hmm.
Now, if one of them is weaker and one is going this way and you going the other direction, then it hinders the progress, obviously, and there's not a steady pace. In marriage, we're not just yoked together, me and you, we're also yoked with Christ. And he says that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So he helps us to carry the load in our marriage when it comes to the purpose, when it comes to his plans, when it comes to all he has for us to steward. He's the one who helps us to carry that out. So the work is not hindered and the progress is not hindered, and we're moving in pace and in purpose with the Holy Spirit. And so I believe that is something that has been transformative in our marriage. Is like, okay, we've been married, we're one, but the spiritual alignment between us and with God has now allowed us to experience a shift to where we are more in aligned.
We still do. We still do. We still do.
Still do after all this time at the altar. I alter my mind and vow to God I love you till he make his return. The rain should be the least of your concern. Under God's umbrella, I promise to provide and preserve his word and to serve your mind and spirit. Let me drive the boat. I promise I'ma steer it. The devil cannot get near it. You'll know this soon as you hear it. You need me, I need you. Even after the altar, we still do.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of We Still Do. We're your host. I'm Jermaine.
I'm Lena.
And whether you are newlyweds or decades in, We Still Do is for you and your mama and your sisters and your cousins.
It
Okay.
really is. We believe you could thrive after the altar. So if you haven't yet, click that notification button. Make sure you subscribe, comment, and share this episode with someone you believe will benefit from it.
Yeah. And so, how you doing? Because I'm ready to get into our topic today.
I know I'm ready to. I'm excited for today's episode, but I'm doing good. I'm doing really, really good.
You look good.
Thank you so much.
You
I'm
got extra
excited.
dressed up.
It's date night. Hey, it's date day.
Okay.
Date night.
No, it's
whatever.
date night because I work today.
Yeah, it is date night.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm excited to date you. And
Okay.
so I'm dressed for the occasion. This for you, boo.
Okay.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I'm doing real good.
You look good too. That
Yeah.
fresh cut will do it every time, boy. Let me tell
You
you.
better stop because we can end this. in
Okay.
So anyways,
Focus every episode.
so we're gonna talk about something that I think has been coming out of just your life. It's kind of more of an interview for you, me interviewing you.
I'm in the hot spot. Okay.
Yeah. Because I think what's been happening for you and just a comment you shared just about us in relation to what's happening with you, I think it's important because you mentioned just how, and I guess we'll just jump into it this
Let's
way.
do it.
You mentioned how like all the things that are kind of transpiring for you has caused you to look at our connection spiritually and to evaluate it from where it was to where it is now.
Mhm.
And so that really posed this idea of like, man, like spiritual alignment is very important. And so that's kind of what, we're going to kind of jump into. But I guess just for starters, just kind of just for you spiritually, like what's all been taking place for you?
How far back do you want to go?
I mean, you can, near future. You ain't got to start when you first became a believer.
So it was
No,
it
it's not.
was
It wasn't the beginning.
in the beginning.
No, it wasn't. that.
Okay. So it's been an interesting spiritual journey, but I will start from just more recently, I think postpartum, after we started having kids, had our son in 2020, had our daughter in 2022, and I experienced this spiritual drought for sure. I remember how hard it was to pray, to read my word. Like, you're in the trenches, right? You have a newborn, and then the transition from 1 to 2 was even harder than just having one. And so it was a spiritual drought. And although there was the things I knew to do, it was so hard to do them. And I feel like during that rough season, spiritually, you carried us a lot. I remember hearing you like praying, waking up at 4 a.m. and it would bring this conviction because you had such discipline and consistency in your prayer life and your time with the Lord, but not enough to move it. And I think it was because I was battling like postpartum depression. It was just dry and dark
Yeah.
and lonely. I mean, if you coming out of the pandemic and just being so isolated from so many people and the social anxiety, just so much that came from just those few years. And then you add kids on top of it. And so I remember I was talking to my bestie, hey bestie, Paulina, and I was sharing with her just kind of where I was and my frustration with spiritually being where I was. And she was telling me about our spiritual mom and just how she was had her on this journey of just like fasting and praying. And so I joined them on that. We started doing women's Bible studies, different things like that. But I think that was the beginning of the unlocking and out of this spiritual dry wilderness
Hmm.
into, the rivers of living water.
Yeah.
And so I noticed such a huge shift in my life when I started. Prayer has always been a part of my life, but when I started fasting and
Hmm.
praying,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because in my study time of just diving deep into this, because I knew it was a journey the Lord had me on. And in my studying, it was like, no, as disciples of Christ, we're all called to pray and fast.
Hmm.
It wasn't like something that was optional. He said, when you pray and fast. And so as disciples, I took that very serious and I began doing that. I began seeing I know a lot of people fast and we're bringing our petitions before the Lord of the things that we want Him to do for us. But I think the greatest thing we get out of fasting is just God Himself. And so in that, He revealed me to me and
Hmm.
my heart in the ways that I wasn't like Him and the things that I was withholding or not giving to Him and the areas where I needed to repent. And so that led me on a different trajectory when it comes to spiritual growth
Hmm.
and just really desiring Him over all things and like literally picking up my cross and dying to my flesh and not letting my flesh be what dominates and leads me. Because a lot of times when I was in that dry season, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I didn't feel like it, right? And in this season, it looks different where I'm not waiting to feel, I'm doing what I know to do. And God has been giving me the grace and the strength to do that.
Hmm. So, talk about what recently happened for you, because usually we'll go to church on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and because of like some of the things our kids need as far as like structure, bedtime routines, and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
um, we usually don't go on Wednesday night. And so you went Wednesday night,
Sunday night, yeah.
Sunday night. You went Sunday night. And so kind of tell me what kind of happened for you that night.
It was an amazing night. I remember our bishop saying that morning, like, tonight's going to be life changing. And I just felt like, you know what? I need to be there. And I had this tug, because of just wanting to care for our home, be here with you guys. But I made sure y'all was straight and I went and life changing it was. The word in itself was enough. I felt the spirit of God so heavy in there and even before anything happened. So if that was all God wanted to do, it was like, okay, I told the Lord, I don't know if this is a divine appointment because you have something for me to receive or something for me to give. Either way, I'm available, to be used by you or to
Hmm.
hear from you. And so yeah, it was beautiful. Oh, it was so beautiful. I got a prophetic word. I actually wasn't going to stay. The word has been spoken and they were lining up and they created like this fire tunnel for people to walk through. And there was people on both sides that was just praying and prophesying and speaking in tongues as you're walking through this tunnel, which was absolutely beautiful. And our bishop called me out and he was like, you're called to intercede. And he was telling me about the grand plans that the Lord had for me and what he wanted to do through my life, the people he wanted me to touch. And I've known, I mean, in our marriage, of course, it was always like, God, what can we come together to do for you? Because two can do more, right? Like we could put 10,000 a flight. And so that was always my focus. Whereas I didn't give as much focus to my individual call and purpose
Hmm.
of like, do you have for Lena to do? And so that was revealed to me that night. And I couldn't even stand at the weight of the word and the weight of his presence in the place. But so he began to just speaking those things, like taking accept the call that's on my life, seeing me involved in ministry. He began to share that he saw me movies and plays and writing books and just all the things that the Lord wanted to do through me, you know? And
Mhm.
a double portion is what he spoke over my life, the double anointing that was on me to be able to do those things. And as you can imagine, it was completely like mind blowing, so humbling that like, what, Lord, you want to do what,
Mhm.
with me. But also very enlightening of like, okay, Lord, then with to whom much is given, much is required. And there's a cost attached to this prophetic word and this call that you have for me. And so I want to make sure that I'm not living a life of compromise so that I can walk out the fulfillment of your word. Because when we hear a prophetic word, it's not just like, okay, we get to sit back and chill, there is actually faith steps that we have to take in partnering with God so that that word comes to pass.
Yeah, that makes sense. So at one point, you went through that experience, and then you brought up just how you brought up this spiritual alignment for us.
Yeah.
And like spiritual alignment for us in our marriage has been a journey, because even when we first met, what I'm saying, like you were already on your spiritual journey. Like I've been to church, like back in 20 we met 2013.
Mhm.
But before that, like my mom always kept me in church, but I was just like there. Like
Mm.
I didn't care. Like I didn't like I'm just in the back. I would stay up till 4 in the morning, go out partying 4 in the morning, come back. My mom, she'll have to shake me to wake me up to go to church and force me to go to church. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like coming out here is something that I continued. But there became a time like, right before we got married, like a year before we got married, where, God started to do something in my heart and stir my desire for him. And so
It was
that
long
kind of,
before we got married, but yes.
yeah, so whenever that was,
Mhm.
like there was this stirring that happened. And uh because of that, it was like, okay, for you, like, okay, like I think I can marry him because there's something about him. There's something different about him, even spiritually. And so, when we went on that journey, like in our marriage, like both of us are spending our individual times with God. Both of us are studying, reading, whatever,
Serving,
serving, like
heavily
doing the
involved.
things.
Yeah.
And so, like we're big on connection. We're big on, emotional connection. We're big on communicating. Like we're big on, you know, intimacy and all the things that keep us connected as a couple, even spiritually. But I think one of the things that is so powerful about being spiritually aligned is that it connects you differently.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? There's a different level of connection when you're spiritually aligned, because thinking about being on the same page with your partner spiritually, there's things that you don't have to have conversations about,
Mhm.
because I know what you believe, you know what I believe.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And it's one of the things that Paul talked about when he addressed the church of Ephesus in chapter 4. Like he's telling them, like, um, you know, maintaining the unity of the spirit through the bond of peace. Like, um, he's telling them about this idea of like what to be spiritually aligned. This is what you need to believe. So let me actually just read it real quick, because
Go
I
for
think
it.
it'll help it make sense in
We
my brain
love
as
the
I'm
word.
talking about it. So it's Ephesians 4 verse 5, and it says, like, there's one body, one spirit, just as you were called to the one hope that belongs to your call, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all, through all, and in all. And so he's telling this church, who has two different groups of people, Jews, Gentiles, who are coming together, like working to be unified. And he's telling them, this is what's going to unify you:
Mhm.
one Lord,
Yep.
one Spirit. Like,
Mhm.
and so that is like spiritual alignment. It needs a focus. It needs a North Star, as some would call it. Like this is what we believe, and because we believe this and we're living our life according to that, and everything we do kind of like aim towards that, now we figure out like what that looks like for us individually.
Yeah.
And it's not even a matter of um because I think oftentimes like people think to be spiritually aligned, like you have to like spend all your devotion time together.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to do that, but it is also necessary. You know what I'm saying? So when you like, and I'll let you elaborate on it a little bit more, because when you said it, it made me evaluate like, dang, like we really did come into a greater spiritual alignment,
Yeah.
and when you brought it up, it was like, man, just like a great reflection. Like we've always prioritized our relationship. We always prioritize like, like God, we wanna be closer. Like like we wanna have a greater connection, greater closeness to
Prioritize
you.
God.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And so when that's been the mindset, one of the things you don't really notice and sometimes like it's often in retrospect is like, man, like we don't know when this happened. We just know that it happened.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it kind of reminds me of like, um, I don't know, I think I shared something with you today and we were just kind of talking about it. And it was like when it comes to your spiritual growth, God is the one who brings the,
Oh
I'm saying, the
yeah.
increase.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like First Corinthians 7, I think it talks about like it was Paul, kind of sharing about him and Apollos to the Corinthian church, like, one waters, one plants, and it's God who
Brings the increase.
brings the increase.
We literally can see that in our marriage. It's like, okay, there's been so many seeds planted in
Hmm.
in terms of in our marriage, prayers, wisdom, counsel, so many people that have been a blessing, discipleship to our marriage. Thus the planting of the seeds. And some may have watered the seeds that have been planted, but God is the one who has brought the increase in terms of, wow, we're like, we've noticed that we're more spiritually aligned, but we don't know when it happened. We
Yeah.
didn't have to do anything for it in terms of, we had to work in terms of our individual devotion and our devotion together, but God brought that growth. And so it's funny you brought that up because we were just talking about that this morning. But one thing I want to say is, when you talk about like, okay, being on the same page or even foundationally, like, yeah, we both believe in God. I feel like there's twofold, and we've really kind of adopted a different understanding of that, because it's one thing to believe in God and it's another thing to obey God. It's another thing to be a disciple of Christ. Like, okay, yeah, you believe him, but what do you do with that belief? Does it put you into action to obeying him? Because those who love him are the ones who obey him and obey his
Hmm.
commands. And so I'm like, okay, it gave a different conviction to, not saying we've was living in hell or living crazy or even in sin, but it brought a different conviction to the spiritual disciplines and spiritual devotion in which we were walking in. And so I think that season, that dry season I went through, could have very well been a part of that. I remember when we launched Lev Love, and we would have to have several meetings of, launching this marriage ministry, and there would be times where we would clash. Like, I would see things one way, you would see things another way. And then one time I remember you telling me, like, I feel like everything I say, you just opposing it, and I'm like,
Hmm.
dang, am I really?
Yeah.
And so I think, as we've been on this journey, we fasted together, we prayed together often, well, daily, and we do devotionals together, we read the word together. And I feel like doing those spiritual disciplines, what the Lord showed me as far as my personal life, like, do the things you know to do in terms of the spiritual disciplines, and I will do the elevating.
Hmm.
And so I believe that He has watered the seeds that have been planted over time in our lives, and we're now seeing the fruit of that. I also think of the two becoming one and becoming one flesh, and how that is, we're one obviously in the act even of intimacy. We come together emotionally, mentally, spiritually in the act of that oneness. But I feel like it's also a journey to becoming one. And so as we've learned and as we've grown and as we've individually had our devotion with the Lord, it's helped to pour into the marriage and the strength of our marriage. And so I don't know when it happened, but I'm like, we're more spiritually aligned, where the Lord will speak something to me and also speak the same thing to you, or
Hmm.
it doesn't seem so hard as hard work. And I can only think of it says, like, can two walk together unless they agree in Amos 3:3? And I think of the oxen and how there was this yoke that they would put on their necks, right? It was a wooden beam and it would yoke them together so that they could plow or carry a cart. Now, and if it was two of them and they both equally strong, right? They go in the same direction, plowing the same direction, then there was a steadiness in terms of the progress that they were making and in terms of the load they were able to carry.
Mhm.
Now, if one of them is weaker and one is going this way and you going the other direction, then it hinders the progress, obviously, and there's not a steady pace. In marriage, we're not just yoked together, me and you, we're also yoked with Christ. And he says that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So he helps us to carry the load in our marriage when it comes to the purpose, when it comes to his plans, when it comes to all he has for us to steward. He's the one who helps us to carry that out. So the work is not hindered and the progress is not hindered. And we're moving in pace and in purpose with the Holy Spirit. And so I believe that is something that has been transformative in our marriage. Is like, okay, we've been married, we're one, but the spiritual alignment between us and with God has now allowed us to experience a shift to where we are more aligned. And dare I say, when we became more spiritually aligned, I knew this before, like maybe a few years ago, I was thinking, praying, and I'm like, man, if we would get spiritually aligned in this oneness that we're operating in, then something would shift. And this year, we have seen the shift and all the Lord has allowed us to do for his glory.
Mhm.
Like there's been a shift in progress, there's been a shift in focus, there's been a shift in audience. And so I feel like we're now plowing and we're going the right direction in pace and we're doing it, in God's timing with his grace.
Yeah, and I think what happens what happened for us is as we continue to seek, as we continue to kind of work through some of the vision, some of the things that we wanted to do for love, for our marriage, for our family, how we, wanted to be intentional with how we served. Like as we're working through those things, it's almost like that's where the clarity came
Mm-hmm.
for,
Yep.
what I'm saying, like our life. So when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about love, we have a core mission focus now. You know what I'm saying? I think because we have that now, we can kind of remove anything else that is a distraction. So because we've been working that out, you know what I'm saying? Like because we've been intentionally trying to be obedient, you know what I'm saying, to Christ, because we like are taking serious what he wants us to do,
Yeah.
we've been able to come to that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it's not a matter of like creating this spiritual unity, it's a matter of like maintaining it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because even in Ephesians, when he's talking about like, one Lord, one baptism, like one spirit, like all these things, like he tells them how to maintain that unity.
How do you do it, honey?
You know what I'm saying? Like he says, humility,
Mm-hmm.
patience, gentleness, and bearing with one another in love. By doing these things, what it does is it reduces this hostility.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because through Christ, through his death, like he broke down this wall of hostility, and now we have this unity in him, and now it's our job to maintain that. So we have spiritual direction. Now we're spiritually aligned because we're working to maintain the unity. You know what I'm saying? Like when we talk about like that peace, maintaining that eager to maintain the unity, you know what I'm saying? And having this peace, that peace really is like we're constantly like reconciling because we know we're gonna miss the mark. We're loving each other in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we have alignment, we have that peace. When we have that peace, it's because we're working to be humble. We're working to have this mindset that Christ had in Philippians 2. This he thought of himself in a way that put him in service to other people
Yeah.
for the sake of obedience.
Took on the form of a servant.
You know what I'm saying? Like we have this gentleness. So like whenever there's this urge to be hostile towards one another, whenever there's this urge to clap back, or even when we talk about like just certain things that we're talking about that we're working through to stay spiritually aligned, we can have those conversations and we can maintain that peace. Because I think with spiritual alignment, it's almost like I think, and I could be wrong, but I think it's Proverbs 27, maybe 17, where it talks about iron sharpens iron. Um and it's through that sharpening iron to where we're able to find, like, okay, this is where God is telling us to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and now because we're working through some of those, like, in a more practical way, it's like, okay, like we're having these hard conversations, we're going to God when we don't, necessarily agree, like, Lord, help us. You know what I'm saying? Like, help us be on the same page, because we understand that one flesh is a continual thing, and we want to maintain that because
Yeah.
we are big on thriving, and part of thriving is spiritual alignment.
Yeah.
And I
You
think,
cannot thrive without spiritual alignment.
yeah, and when I think of like doing that, like that's where God continues to realign us. God continues to refocus us. And I think one of the struggles with not being spiritually aligned is you don't experience the complete blissfulness of what God has for your marriage. There's
Mhm.
this unity that you won't feel if you're not spiritually aligned.
Mhm.
Like when you have two differing beliefs, like there's things that you'll have to struggle through that you don't need to struggle through if you're spiritually aligned.
Yeah.
There's things that you'll have to endure that you didn't need to endure. Now you have to work through the unity, but now you have to work through foundational, uh maybe ethical, maybe moral decisions, like because of our beliefs. You know what I'm saying? And like to be spiritually aligned, it requires obedience. It really does, because when you have a focus, now you have to stay in alignment with that. Like it gives you, I think we talked about this in a prior episode, like it gives you guardrails.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with those guardrails, it's like these are our do's and don't do. Like you
Mhm.
have the freedom to do either one, but because of your obedience to uh the primary focus, because of like your obedience to Christ, because you're trying to stay within those guardrails, there are certain decisions that we make that keep us spiritually aligned, and there's
Yep.
decisions that we don't make that keep us spiritually aligned.
Absolutely.
And so working through all of those, whether it's through parenting, whether it's through career, occupational things, whether it's like, okay, like this is what God has placed on you individually as a calling, this is what God has placed with me. But in those, we still have a certain way of showing up that says we're spiritually aligned. Spiritually, as we talked about in a prior episode, like we really we don't put ourselves in a position to be questioned. Like we don't put ourselves in a position to say like, man, like Lena, she was one on one with, and Jermaine, he was one on one with.
Mhm.
Like I wonder, do she know? Like we don't even put ourselves in that position. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Just
Like
guarding.
so there's that's a spiritual decision,
Absolutely.
because one of the fruits of the spirits is self-discipline.
And
And
self-control.
we're aware, so in self-control, and so we're aware. um yeah, sorry, one of the fruits of the spirit is self-control. I'm thinking about discipline and said two things at once. Good catch.
It's okay.
And so when we think about spiritual discipline, like we make this decision based on our obedience to Christ and our love for one another.
Yes.
And so when we're spiritually
Yes.
aligned, there's something that we get to experience even when we have sex, because sex isn't just physical, sex is also a spiritual thing.
It is. And I think a lot of times we focus on connecting in all the other ways. And that one, spiritual, is the one that is often missed. But it
Hmm.
is, you cannot, there is a void you will feel if you are not spiritually connected. There is a misalignment, dare I say, if you're not spiritually aligned and connected. And if you are connected in all these other ways, like it, I mean, I'm not saying you can't have a blissful marriage, but spiritually, like we are literally like spiritual beings in a human body having this human experience. And so to be able to connect on that way is a different level of satisfaction. um and I feel like there will always feel like something's missing unless you are connected
Hmm.
in that way. Do I know? We can't even identify when exactly it happened, but we do know what we've been doing, and that is the seeds that have been planted due to the community, due to the discipleship, due to our pastoral leadership. That has been a part of it. We are doing our own individual devotion with the Lord, keeping Him first. We are doing devotion in prayer, worship, all the things together, and even as a family with our kids. And so, in doing that, in listening to sermons, and just fueling and feeding ourselves spiritually, God has brought the shift of the being spiritually aligned. And I think a lot of conversations around that as well, obviously, has been a part of that. One thing that I wanted to share, you got something? Go ahead. You go first, because I might take us in a different direction.
Okay. So, like, I listen to you, and then I hear people who watch you say, like, my spiritual walk is my job.
Mm.
My partner's spiritual walk is their job.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I shouldn't be necessarily responsible for their spiritual growth.
Mm.
Like, and is it good enough to just like grow individually because we're both growing, so therefore we're just going to be spiritually aligned. And what came to mind was, because I'm so heavy in Ephesians right now,
Mhm.
what came to mind was Ephesians 5 verse 25 and 26. It says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. And so basically, Paul is like giving this description on Christ's love for the church. And so, with how Christ loved the church, like Christ took it upon himself to present the church in a way that looks clean, that's without spot or
Mhm.
blemish. And so when we talk about ourselves as husbands, loving our spouses in this way, there is a responsibility that we have when it comes to our spiritualness. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're having these spiritual conversations, we're washing her with, or you know what I'm saying, we're to wash her with water. We're to tell her about the word. We're
Mhm.
to include and have these spiritual conversations because it's necessary for us to be on the same page. So I just wanted to say that. So
Yeah, that's really, really good. Really, really good. I did want to say that we are all called to work out our salvation, and that is like our responsibility. Like individually, we work out our salvation.
mhm,
So individually, absolutely. But when we come together in the oneness and spiritually being obviously the most important of those, I feel like um, that's something that is also another layer of working out the sanctification that happens from just
mhm,
us being married to one another, that is making us more like Christ. And I think I realized that as I was reflecting on 8 years of marriage that we just celebrated. Like, awesome. I've said many times how your love has reminded me of Christ's love for me. And it really has. I'm like, man, only God could have given me a man that loves me the way that you do and pursues me the way that you do. And I'm so eternally grateful for that. But then I realized there's another layer. It has also made me become more like Christ in terms of me wanting to have my own spiritual disciplines and bringing you before the Lord and asking the Lord, give me discernment so that I can see what he needs and I can pray for him or speak an encouraging word
yeah,
over him. And like, so it has made me more like Christ in my fasting and my praying for our marriage and all of those things. And so I realized that, I think more so this year, of like your love has also helped me to become more like Christ in the sanctification that has happened from us being married. And I believe that helps us to be more set apart ultimately for him. I think marriage is also partnership, and there's a purpose for our marriage. And I think we have discovered what our purpose is. God has revealed, not that we discovered, God has revealed what our purpose is for our marriage. And I believe that has helped us also to be spiritually aligned in what we are called to do for Him together, not neglecting also the individual call that's on our lives. And I know
mhm,
this year, the Lord dealt with us both about preparation and being prepared. And I'm like, okay, well, we got to do this, we got to do that. And as I was spending time on my face, the Holy Spirit said, you cannot attain the calling I have on your life outside of me. The preparation happens when you posture yourself and position yourself at my feet. And you
mhm,
get your daily instructions for what that looks like. And so I need daily instructions on how to love you well. I need daily instructions on how to care for you or meet your needs or to serve you or to die to myself and my flesh, which marriage, obviously, there's a death that happens. I don't know if you realize it. We talked about this and we jokingly say, like, it really should be like a funeral because you have to die to yourself to serve someone else outside of just your needs and your want and your desires. Like, I have to consider you. And so I daily need to sit at his feet to be able to do that. I can't do that on my own. And while there was a season where I was going through the spiritual drought, and I said, you carried me spiritually in terms of you praying and you covering me and you speaking life over me and washing me with the word. The reality is, I still have to bear my own cross. You can't bear that for me. And when we stand before the Lord, I can be like, well, he prayed and he did this and he prayed over us. And then I get to make it into heaven. Like, no, I got my own journey too. And so I think
You
that,
do, and I think that's why it's important for us to be spiritually aligned, because in those moments where, yes, like, we need to do our own, but in the moments where it's hard, or the moments where, you know what I'm saying, like postpartum, or the
yeah, yeah,
moments
yeah.
where you have two kids and they're pulling on you, and like your body is completely exhausted
Oh,
because they're
yeah.
getting up at night, and you still have to get up and get them ready for school and
Mm-hmm.
all the things. Like, in those moments, being spiritually aligned is me coming alongside you and also praying over you. It's
Yes.
uh you know encouraging you in the word. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, equipping you, and it's helping you find creative ways to like it, like all of that is spiritual alignment,
Yeah,
because we believe in having a relationship with Christ. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
Like, we believe that when we draw near to him, he'll draw near to us, and that's our desire, for him to draw near to us, for
Yeah.
us to have this close connection, as it says in James. Like, we want that. And in those seasons where it might be hard for you because of certain requirements, spiritual alignment says, like, okay, honey, like, we have too much going on.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes.
have to we have to cut back,
Yep.
because the one thing that you don't want to give up is your relationship. The
Absolutely.
one thing that you don't want to sacrifice is your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because when that
And my
it,
relationship with Christ is what
that's what
you're
I'm talking
saying.
about. Yeah,
Yeah.
your relationship with Christ. Like,
Right.
that's the one thing that you don't want to strain,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the one place where you feel the most satisfied. That's the one place where you feel the most fulfilled, when I'm spending that time. And so when we're spiritually aligned, we can do things like that, because we do understand that this is a journey, and on this journey of life, like, things come up, things happen.
Seasons happen.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so in the seasons, being spiritually aligned, as you talked about with the oxen and being yoked, like, we're both pulling this. Like, we're both doing this. Like, it's not a matter of, like, because I work all day and you're with the kids, that you always wake up with the kids and you're always tired, and I'm able to wake up in the morning at 3 and spend my time with the Lord, and I'm growing spiritually. No, my responsibility is to make sure that we're growing spiritually. Our responsibility is pointing each other to Christ in
Yeah.
all that we do.
And all
And
that we
if
do.
and when we're doing that, that is spiritual alignment. That
Yes.
is saying, like, our obedience is pointing us to Christ. Our obedience is spending time with Christ. Our obedience is sitting at his feet and diving in his word and getting the daily instruction and understanding how he wants us to live, the
Mm-hmm.
calling on our life, the mission to, you know, go out and be disciple and disciple others, like the great commit. Like, when we think of things like that, like, we're spiritually aligned.
Yes.
When we think about working with couples, like, inviting couples to embrace Christ in their marriage, to really give him space to operate in their marriage, the spiritual alignment. So
Yes.
all of those things, all of those decisions, when we talk about money and we talk about, the purpose, and money not uh leading us and making us make certain choices, like, when we think about it in that way, all of that stuff, like, if we're
Mm-hmm.
spiritually aligned, we make those decisions.
Together.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because everything we do should stem from that. So
Yeah.
I digress. But
Yeah.
anyways,
No, that's really, really
I
good,
think
honey.
I think it's important.
It is. It's
And so,
definitely important. And I'm very thankful for the journey. And I do want to reiterate the journey because that's exactly what it's been. There has been seasons where it seemed like you were growing spiritually and I wasn't. And there has been seasons where it was the other way around. But in this season, I feel like part of it is like, no, we're moving at the same pace. We're going the same direction. God is with us and he's backing us in it. And so for those that may be listening or watching and like, well, my spouse isn't doing this or my spouse isn't doing that, or I'm the one that's more spiritually mature, like Seasons change. It won't always be like that. And also, it's an opportunity to be able to pray and seek the Lord and fast for your spouse. Because I do believe that the Lord has yoked you to your spouse, if you will, for a reason and for a purpose. And you have exactly what they need. And there's a grace on you for your spouse to be able to weather the storms of life that may come.
That's good. What's our marriage emotion? That's good.
It's a marriage emotion. All right, y'all. So
He's so cute.
I always hear that in my head, whether I sing it out loud or not. For this week's marriage emotion, we want you to get heart to heart and spirit to spirit. Take time this week to come together and talk about what the Lord is dealing with you about. What is the Lord dealing with you about? You both discuss that and then take time to pray about what's next. It's in having these conversations that we find ourselves being more spiritually aligned, right? Just having the conversation, like, what is God saying to you? Or what do you feel God is saying about our marriage or even about our family? So take time to have that conversation and then pray about it, right? We want you guys to be heart to heart, spirit to spirit.
Your connection would go way further. You would experience your spouse in a different capacity when you're spiritually aligned. And so,
10,000.
once again, this is We Still Do, where we believe in thriving after the altar. And like, subscribe, leave a comment if this was helpful to you, because we want you to thrive ultimately. We want you, we want everybody around you to have healthy relationships, because healthy marriages, healthy Christ-centered marriages, it reveals something about God that people need to see, and they can see that through you. So,
And it has a ripple effect on generations to come.
it does. So,
Thank you
peace.
for watching. Love you guys.
Forever and always, gonna love you and always. No doubt you're my blessing. Ain't no second guessing. No one can separate. We found a good thing, even after the altar.